Yo, how's it going, YouTube? I'm back in the video, and today I'm going to be talking about why the Brooklyn Nets need to re-sign Kyrie Irving. Now, Kyrie Irving and the Brooklyn Nets, you wouldn't have thought at the start of this year that this would even be a conversation. You would have thought for sure Kyrie Irving's going to opt into his player option, and especially with him saying things like, I want to stay in Brooklyn, I want to end my career in Brooklyn, and things like that. Now, although we do know that hasn't stopped him before at all in any means, when he said he wants to stay somewhere for the rest of his career, and then he leaves the next year. We've seen that multiple times from Kyrie Irving now. But hey, maybe he meant it this time. But with more reports coming out that the Brooklyn Nets are not willing to sign Kyrie Irving to a long-term deal, and that they might be looking into sign-and-trade options, especially if Kyrie Irving does opt out of his player option that he has coming up this offseason, that the Nets might want to trade him and might want to move on from Kyrie Irving. Now, I'm going to be saying why I think this would be a terrible mistake for the Brooklyn Nets organization that they would be making, and that I think that they need to keep Kyrie. So I'm going to get into a few reasons in this video why I think, even though with all the antics Kyrie does put your franchise through when he is on your team, why he is still so valuable and you need to keep him if you can. So if that sounds interesting at any point, hit the like button and subscribe button with the absolute word me. And without further ado, without running on too much, let's get right into this video. So the first thing I want to get into is that there's pretty much no benefit in letting Kyrie Irving walk or even doing a sign and trade with Kyrie Irving. The reason I say this is because no matter how much Kyrie Irving puts you through, from the vaccine issues, from him leaving to go to other countries to pray with people, that's a legit thing, I didn't make that up, he just randomly left and went to some country in the middle of the season, all of the circus acts that he is going to put your team through, all the loops, everything, he is still a top 5 point guard when he is playing on the court, and you cannot get that even in any trade that you do, especially a sign and trade, because what a sign and trade basically means is that Kyrie Irving does no longer wants to play with Brooklyn, and you have no leverage on that at all, and that a team can offer you peanuts for a player that normally would have to take a lot more to get. We saw that last year on a smaller scale with Lonzo Ball and the Pelicans. Lonzo, although they did trade him, they got very little for him, and that was due to how little leverage they had, because Lonzo wanted to leave, he signed with a different team, and they did a sign and trade. So they got very little. I think they ended up getting Garrett Temple and Thomas Satoransky. Like, that is a horrible deal for Lonzo Ball, but the Pelicans were kind of like getting grabbed by the balls a little bit by the Bulls because he had no leverage, and they had to settle for whatever deal the Chicago Bulls offered them, or they would have lost Lonzo for absolutely nothing. And that is kind of the same scenario Brooklyn could be finding themselves in very, very soon if they are not willing to sign Kyrie to a long-term deal. And that is where most of this is coming from, because they're worried, is Kyrie going to keep doing this in the long term? Like, can we rely on him? And in my opinion, although he's always going to be weird, because he's a flat earther, he's always going to be a strange guy. I mean, anybody that thinks the earth is flat isn't always going to be all the way there, but what he is always going to be in his prime, and probably for the next few years, is a top 5 point guard in this league. And anytime you have a top 5 point guard along with Kevin Durant and now even Ben Simmons, you are a contending level team. And that kind of piggybacks into my next statement, that I think with Kyrie Irving, they are still very much a contender out of the Eastern Conference. If Ben Simmons, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving can play the entire playoffs and a little bit of the regular season together, they are a legit contending team. Kevin Durant's a top 5 player in the league, Kyrie Irving's a top 5 point guard in the league, and Ben Simmons is one of the best defensive guards in the entire NBA right now. So for sure, that big three can work out together. And with how good offensively Kyrie and Kevin Durant are on that side of the ball, that more than makes up for Ben Simmons' complete lack of wanting to even attempt to shoot a basketball. So I think for sure that Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant could be a great help to help pick up that slack that Ben Simmons is going to leave on the offensive end. And then Kyrie Irving not being the best defender, Ben Simmons being an elite defender, could pick up the slack that maybe Kyrie Irving has on the defensive end. So I think for sure they could work very, very good together, and that is a legit contending team. Like, I think they can compete with the Milwaukee Bucks, the Miami Heat, the Boston Celtics of the Eastern Conference with a big three of Ben Simmons, Kyrie, and Kevin Durant. And at worst, you have one of the most interesting diva-ish big threes of all time. You have Ben Simmons, a guy who got in very verbal agreements. His whole situation has been very publicized. Everybody knows how much of a diva he can be. You have social media tycoon Kevin Durant, who responds to everyone in any way hates on him on social media. He also has burner accounts. And then you have Kyrie Irving, aka the biggest conspiracy theory guy in the entire NBA and probably NBA history. So at worst, Brooklyn Nets fans, buckle up, because if this big three plays together for an entire season, you are in for one interesting season for sure. Like, just imagine some of the headlines that could come from them three being on a team together. Like, if you were putting together an all diva team, or like an all, like, I don't even know, like all dysfunctional team, this is the big three you would want to put together. You have one guy who can't get along with any of his teammates in Philly, Kevin Durant, like I said, snake boy, internet boy, Twitter boy, and then you have Kyrie Irving, who just believes in conspiracy theories, flat earth guy, just a weird guy. Like, that is going to be a very interesting team, no matter how you put it. So I think for sure this big three, even if they can't win a championship, Brooklyn Nets fans are going to have a very, very interesting season next year if this is the team going forward. But even from a basketball standpoint, I do think, like earlier, like I said, how both of them kind of like play off each other and complement each other and how they play. I think for sure this big three could work out and be a legit contender, and I also think this big three would fit very well with the shooters they have around them, like Joe Harris and Seth Curry, as both of them would benefit a ton from playing with an elite playmaker like Ben Simmons, because like Ben Simmons or not, and Kyrie Irving in the same way, those are both elite playmakers and can pass the ball at an extremely high level that not a lot of people can, and shooters like Seth Curry and shooters like Joe Harris are going to greatly benefit from playing with someone like him. And then lastly, even if you just look at the success the Brooklyn Nets have had with Kyrie, it is undeniable that they are just a better team with Kyrie Irving than they are without Kyrie Irving. Because if you look at the success with Kyrie Irving on the Brooklyn Nets, his overall record since going with Brooklyn is 58-45, and in games that he's also had Kevin Durant to play in, he is 27-17. So they have a by far double-digit win comparison to when they have Kyrie Irving on the floor. Like, they are a much better team with Kyrie Irving than they are without him, and I think for sure Kyrie Irving leads to winning, and I just don't think it would be smart to go in a sign and trade scenario or letting him walk just because he has a few little antics. Because no matter how frustrating Kyrie Irving makes you as a front office, and how much he can put you through as a team, it is almost worth it with how good he is and what the reward is. The risk is, hey, he doesn't play for an entire season because no telling him in his mind some type of conspiracy comes up, but the reward is that you win the NBA Finals, which is the ultimate goal. But with you letting him walk, all you do is get rid of that potential craziness that he's going to put you through, but then you lose all the rewards, which is that you can no longer win a Finals. Because with just Ben Simmons and Kevin Durant, I don't think that's enough to win the NBA Finals out of the Eastern Conference. Now, I do think that would still be a very good team, but I think if you can keep Kyrie for long term, you have to do it, especially with right now how he's still sort of happy. Now, I don't know how his mood feels anymore, if he still wants to finish his career with Brooklyn and that's where he wants to stay, now that they said they are not willing to give him a long-term deal. But before that, he was happy with the front office and he was happy with the team. So I think for sure the Brooklyn Nets should do everything in their power to keep Kyrie Irving. But unfortunately, guys, that's my first video, so comment below. Do you agree with me? Do you think that the Brooklyn Nets should try to keep Kyrie? I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. If you like the point, hit the like button, subscribe button, and the absolute word to me. And I hope you have a blessed day, have a blessed day, so you can have a blessed day. All glory to God. See you in the next video. Goodbye. Boo. Blah.